My presentation today is a humble attempt to read Fratelli Tutti as a human fraternity, a call to go beyond boundaries. I have divided it into 7 points: an invitation to go beyond boundaries, a heart open to the world, Indian consecrated persons beyond boundaries. Religious of India is to be interreligious. Magisterium, dialogue with other religions and cultures, contemporary theologians, ecumenism and religious persons in India. The first point, an invitation to go beyond boundaries. We, the consecrated persons, are well aware that our call is to call to holiness. Apart from it, we are also called for human fraternity. Jesus himself has taught us that we are all children of one God. Hence, we are all brothers and sisters. However, the message of the encyclical is a call to remain the bond of common fatherhood of God and to a renewed vision of humanity in a world divided between color, caste, culture, gender, religion, politics, etc. This year, on the feast of St. Francis of Assisi, the Holy Father Pope Francis released a third encyclical letter of his papacy, entitled Fratelli Tutti, on fraternity and social friendship. Fratelli Tutti, which means all brothers, which implies all sisters too, was taken from the writing of St. Francis of Assisi, whom the Pope described as the saint of fraternal love. The 287 paragraph document is a brisk walking tour on social teaching, and it is worthwhile to read it. I am quite sure that you all might have read it. Pope Francis, trying to inspire in us the importance of growing in connectedness through his 3 encyclicals. Lumen Fidei expresses that all are connected to God. Laudato Si expresses that all are connected to nature. And Fratelli Tutti invites us to reflect that all are connected to one another. The encyclical is an invitation to meditate on our common fraternity or human fraternity. All individuals, whatever their origin, know that they are part of a greater human family, without which they will not be able to understand themselves fully. Number 149. For us Indians, it is easy to understand the concept of family as a greater human family. From Jawaharlal Nehru to Narendra Modi, India's political leaders have often evoked the phrase Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, taken from the Maha Upanishad, which means we are all one family. Fratelli Tutti demonstrates beyond doubt that the current coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic is a reminder that no one can face life in isolation, and that world is actually a single human family. In number 3, Fratelli Tutti, Pope brings forth the life of St. Francis of Assisi that shows his openness of heart, which knew no bounds and transcended differences of origin, nationality, color, or religion. That is why Fratelli Tutti addresses all people of goodwill, regardless of their religious convictions. Number 56. In short, A call to go beyond boundaries signifies beyond one's own religion, race, culture, gender, etc. One should also enter into dialogue with culture and religion. We Indians are blessed to have many religions that have given birth in our Indian soil. Or India is the cradle of the major world religions. Second point, a heart open to the world. Pope Francis reminds us to have a heart open to the world. He goes on to say that to accept others as a part of continuing adventure that makes every pastry convert in a greater sense of mutual belonging. Number 95. In the movement towards solidarity does not eliminate differences, but celebrates the beauty of diversity. The idea of universal communion is the oneness of God, and we are His children. This does not mean that, however, the God is our biological father, and we are all biologically linked from a certain genealogy. But on the other hand, we are made one in our humanness. The uniqueness of human reality establishes the fact that we are all children of one God, and thus we are brothers and sisters. Although we are divided by the regionalism and the contemporary political idea of nationhood, we are all children of one Father. Pope Francis recalls to the issues of migration and refugees in Europe and elsewhere. The third point, Indian religious persons or Indian consecrated persons beyond boundaries. The question I would like to pose to all the religious persons of India: how in the religious dialogue can help us to give meaning and substance to the universal human rights and the human fraternity? How can we build harmony and understanding of different cultures and religions in India? As religious persons of India, we have great potentials and possibilities to actualize them through our education ministry, healing ministry, and social work. We can influence millions, perhaps billions of people. How can this influence be directed to better understanding and to mobilizing these resources for dialogue with religions, with cultures, for common good and human fraternity? I am reminded of my Jewish professor, Rabbi Jack Bemborad, who is one of the pioneers of the Jewish dialogue with the Catholic Church in 1960s. He told me once, Sister Gracie, you must ask a question and answer yourself. The question is, how can I be true to my faith without being inauthentic to others? I ask each of you who are listening to me, how can you be true to your faith without being inauthentic to others? To answer this, I must know and appreciate my faith and identify myself with it. Unless and until I know my faith, I cannot appreciate another's faith. The deeper the knowledge of my faith, the greater the appreciation of the faith of others. And that makes it easy to enter into dialogue and to build the bridges between the religions. If we are not convinced of our faith and its doctrine, we may end up in accommodating, compromising, or can easily slip into syncretism. Fourth point, religious in India implies to be interreligious. It does not mean that you have to be a Hindu or a Christian or a Jew or a Jainist. It means that to understand and accept other religions. I strongly appreciate number 271 in Fatehli Tutti. Pope Francis, quoting in the words of the bishops of India, the goal of dialogue is to establish friendship, peace and harmony, and to share spiritual and moral values and experiences in a spirit of truth and love. Indeed, it is only through dialogue with the other religions that the church can discover the fuller aspects of God's will for humankind. Therefore, dialogue is not only useful but necessary. It is imperative. It is indeed the challenge of an Indian religious person. To become religious implies to be interreligious, one who can speak of peace and or shalom and to build bridges between the religions. The fifth point, magisterium. Pope Paul VI, in his encyclical Ecclesiam Suam in 1964, promulgated in the ambience of the Second Vatican Council, which urged the Church to be in dialogue with the world, with other religions, with other Christians, and within the Church. Vatican Council II promulgated Nostra Aetate and Unitatis Redemptionis, where is historical turning point of the Church in interreligious and ecumenical dialogue. Lumen Gentium, which had proved a genuine milestone in it. The sixth point, contemporary religions, theologians of India. It is interesting to note that Jacques Dupuis, a Belgian priest, a theologian, who spent several decades in India, beautifully writes, to know the religion of another is more than being cognizant of the facts of the other's religious tradition. It involves getting inside the skin of the other. It involves walking in the shoes of the other. It involves seeing the world in some sense as the other sees it. It involves asking the question of another. It involves getting inside the other's sense of being a Hindu, Muslim, Jew, Buddhist, Jainist, Taoist, Zoroastrianist, etc. I would also like to remember another important person, Raymond Panikkar, a well-known apostle of interreligious dialogue in India. He may be better known for his famous work, The Unknown Christ of Hinduism, which influenced a lot in our thinking pattern on Hinduism. The Roman Pontiff calls for a greater collaboration among religions for the common good and the promotion of the poor, number 282. Finally, Pope Francis quotes directly from the document on human fraternity for the world, peace and living together, which he signed in February 2019 with the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar in Abu Dhabi, committing again the name of God to path of peace and dialogue toward greater human fraternity. Fratelli Tutti, number 279, proclaims that we can build harmony and understanding between different cultures and religions. Indeed, it is worthwhile to remember the well-known German philosopher and the critical theorist Jürgen Habermas envisions. I think our human society needs a new culture of authentic dialogue and discursive ethics. We need communicative action that affirms sociality and solidarity of human at large. Society is built on this authentic dialogue, which involves respecting the other's viewpoint, but not in a relativistic fashion. Rather, it must respect the truth of the human dignity and submit to that truth. Number 207. Seventh and last point, ecumenism and consecrated persons in India. It is also interesting to note that Pope Francis exhorts in this encyclical number 280 speaks of the importance of ecumenical dialogue. For Catholics, especially for us consecrated persons, ecumenism should be considered a vital mission of the Church and of our mission. For it was Christ who gave us the gift of unity, and thus all of us should strive to enhance and restore it. It is the desire and the prayer of Jesus, ut unum sunt. May they all be one. St. John chapter 17, 21. The priestly prayer of Jesus. In Unitas Redempta Gratio, tells us that spiritual ecumenism is the heart of ecumenism. It means interior conversion, spiritual renewal, the personal sanctification of life, charity, self-denial, humility, patience, but also renewal and reform of the Church. Restoration of unity among all Christians is one of the principal concerns of the Second Vatican Council. As consecrated persons, we must ask ourselves, where are we now with ecumenism in India? Quo vadis ecumenism? What is the future direction of ecumenism in India? What's the relationship between one's identity and one's engagement in interfaith and ecumenical dialogue in a multi-religious country like India? If we have understood the encyclical of Fratelli Tutti in its depths, we can grow beyond the boundaries and become a drop of living blood, carrying oxygen of peace and harmony to all the tissues of the body. Yes, I am reminded of the thought of Venerable Mother Maria Oliva of the Mystical Body, the foundress of the Daughters of the Church, who said, I want to be a drop of living blood in the mystical body of Jesus, so that I can bring life in the heart of the Church and all the cells of its members. My desire knows no bounds. Each religious person should ask, how much are we anxious to bring peace and harmony into the members of the mystical body and to the entire human family? Are we aware of that we are all children of one God? Can I live in peace with others and become a sign of unity, fraternity, and harmony, bringing God's love to all the people of goodwill? This is the challenge of Indian consecrated persons as a member of the mystical body of Christ and a part of multi-religious and pluralistic country like India. in Fratelli Tutti, number 284, invites us to be true people of dialogue, to cooperate in building not as intermediaries, but as authentic mediators. Yes, we religious should be authentic mediators than intermediaries. I conclude that the vision of human fraternity, a call to go beyond boundaries, as envisioned in the encyclical Fratelli Tutti, as the prophetic call to the contemporary world stricken with cutthroat competitions, religious fanaticism, politically divided nation, biological weapons like coronavirus. At this juncture of our life, interreligious dialogue is the only path to peace and freedom. Dialogue is therefore the main instrument for achieving peace and fraternity, and ultimately makes God present in any human encounter, as we are all brothers and sisters beyond the boundaries. Few practical suggestions. Finish or furnish an interreligious and ecumenical library in our educational institutions. Organize seminars, conferences, symposium on world religions in our theologate, formation houses, and in the commons. Celebrate the various religious festivals in our school campus and in our university campus. Organize an interreligious and ecumenical prayer meetings in seminaries and in the formation houses with non-Catholics and non-Christians. Promote interfaith joint social actions with all the people of goodwill. I conclude with a prayer to the Creator. May our hearts to be open to all the peoples and nations of the earth. May we recognize the goodness and beauty that you have sown in each of us, and thus forge bonds of unity, common projects, and shared dreams. Amen. Thank you, Reverend Brother Paul Raj, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sister Gracie, for this beautiful presentation. Let us put our hands together and then thank Sister Gracie for the wonderful presentation. Sister Gracie, you have told us at the end of your presentation that in India, to be religious means to be interreligious. And also you have spoken about the dialogue of life that Pope Francis is placing before us. I must confess here that Sister Gracie and her congregation, they have a generalate in Rome, just very close to the Vatican Museum. From the terrace of the general house of the Sisters Gracie's generalate, we can see Pope having an evening walk. So I think they are very close to the church and close to the Pope. So now is time for any clarifications if you have. So you can Sister Gracie is there to respond to your questions. Father Joe, you would like to respond briefly to this interreligious proposition that Sister Gracie has made? Is he unmuting? You have to unmute yourself. Yes.
Father Joe, unmute, please.
Yes. You can't unmute him. Okay.
Have I unmuted?
Yes, yes, right. You are unmuted now. Yes. Okay.
So, see, I personally think when we see what this Pope is trying to propose, see, the church has got a lot of wonderful theories, doctrines. Yeah? This Pope's whole approach is an experiential, means he learned things by living among the poor, not by reading books. I feel we all need to learn more directly from people, from being with the poor, to move more from reading documents. There is a place for documents, sure. It was a doctoral guide, etc. I follow that world. But I feel our hearts are touched. For example, one thing the Pope says is we need to train the heart of people, otherwise we'll form little monsters. That means I can have a PhD in the subject, but be a very narrow-minded person. I need experiences that touch the heart and make me open. That's, I think, a good theory is insufficient. Yeah, this Pope's whole approach to the church is based on that. Yeah, yeah.
There is another element that I think Sister Gracie has mentioned. The whole the idea behind writing this encyclical, he has gone beyond the traditions. The inspiration has come actually from outside the church. It's from outside, other traditions, other faiths, and that is running through the entire document. So I thought Sister Gracie is the right person because their congregation, they have been involved in interreligious dialogue and ecumenical activities. I think this is one area maybe the national CRI also could initiate some actions with regard to the fact that we are all involved in lots in educational apostolate and the health ministry, etc. We have been practically involving ourselves with the people of other religions more. So I think it has a tremendous significance. Sister Gracie, you would like to respond to this?
Yes. When I think of his encyclicals, as I have said in the beginning, Lumen Fidei, he is connecting to God. The second encyclical, Laudato Si, connected to the nature. And Laudato Si is influenced by an Orthodox Patriarch Bartholomew. He mentions he has given the inspiration to Holy Father to write this encyclical on nature. And we know that the third encyclical about Fratelli Tutti, he has got many inspirations from many people. He mentions it in his encyclical, the Muslim brothers, the Hindu brothers, and he mentions the person of Mahatma Gandhi, and he also mentions various other persons. And he says that very many people of the world has given him the inspiration to write this encyclical. That he himself went ahead beyond the boundaries. He did not stick on to the Catholic traditions. In fact, when you see in the beginning itself, usually in his encyclical, you will see that it is addressed to the bishops, priests, religious, and lay faithful of Catholics. Here, in fact, he mentions the people of goodwill. So it includes everyone. So the very first page itself, he is very sure of this encyclical is going beyond his own Catholic perspective towards the world religions. And I would say that he, as Father Joe Manath mentioned, he goes beyond his religious convictions as a Catholic, but he goes beyond embracing all religions, seeing the element of truth or ray of hope in all the religions, and giving human weakness and human dignity to everyone. Therefore, I would say that he is calling us, each one of us, to have this universal brotherhood and the common fatherhood of one Father who is heaven and who is the creator of heaven and earth.
There is another question. Interreligious dialogue is not encouraged in our communities and in the places of our mission. So what could be done? Can you give us some suggestions? I think already you have mentioned a few suggestions. They're asking, when it is not encouraged, what could be done? What is the solution?
I think that I have mentioned also, if we are rooted in our own religious perspectives, our own doctrines, our own religion as a Catholic religion, if we are rooted in our own identity and our own doctrines, it will be easy for us to enter into the dialogue with others. Unless and until, if we are not able to root ourselves in our authentic religion or our own doctrines, it is difficult for us to enter into dialogue with others. Therefore, I would say, first we must know our doctrine, and we must know our Bible, which embraces the whole humanity, the salvation to all. Naturally, when we have this perspective, we can easily enter and encourage our youngsters and our own convents, our own seminaries for this inter-religious dialogue.
As any more questions, I see there are a lot of only congratulatory messages are coming in. I don't see many questions. There are some suggestions. We must celebrate Christmas with the other religions, leaders, and share our Christmas joy with them. And there are some suggestions, as Sister Gracie has already mentioned. I don't see any more questions. There are only Sister Gracie, congratulations, etc. Father Joe. They have not forgotten Father Joe yet. Yes. So thank you very much, Sister Gracie and Father Joe. Let us give a good hand to both of them for a very beautiful, a very big thanks to both of you for a very scholarly presentation.